Hi, hello, and welcome to another video. My name is Laura Vasquez. I'm a PhD candidate, a second-year PhD candidate, and right now we are in front of my TBR or to be read bookshelf. I'm essentially making this video for accountability for myself. I did recently buy a lot of books, so not only am I trying to slow down on that, but I'm trying to make a dent in all of this so that it doesn't grow further out into my apartment, because my apartment is essentially pretty small already. With that being said, let's get started. These are all the books that I have yet to read. First, speaking about spilling over, I want to talk about the books that I have right in front of me. Some I did recently just get, and then two were just somewhere else in my apartment. So they're not being housed right now in my bookshelf. But the first book that I have right in front of me is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I originally read this in high school. I never owned a copy about it, but I will actually be teaching this or giving a lesson on American modernism and The Great Gatsby the week after spring break. So I went ahead and grabbed a copy so that I could not only reread it, but write some notes on it and everything like that. I think it recently just celebrated 100 years of being published, and I think that's pretty cool. The next book that I have in front of me is The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. The next book is actually one that I've already talked about in older videos, so that's why it's not on my shelf, but I forgot about it and that's why I haven't read it yet. But that is The Transit of Venus by Shirley Hazard. Oh, also quick side note, I will not be showcasing the books on the top shelf because the top shelf books are my favorite books. So these are books I've already read. This was just the only area that I had to display them. I will be talking about just the books from the shelves, from the bottom shelves. If you guys want, I can make a separate video about all my favorite books. Just let me know in the comments. The next book that I just recently got is The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison, and unfortunately I haven't read any Toni Morrison, so I am collecting them and finally putting them on my list to read. The next two books are from the same author, and that is The Night Circus and This Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. These next couple of books are one book that also just I haven't put away for some reason, and then two soft DNFs, so I'm technically still planning on reading them. The one that I just didn't put away is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and this is where the concept of morning pages came out. The next book that I soft DNF'd, I've been already talking about it, and that is Beloved by Toni Morrison. Not that I wasn't enjoying myself, it's just that I wasn't in the best headspace when I started it, and I know that the themes are only going to get heavier from where I am, so I just want to be in a better headspace to restart it and give it the time that it deserves. And the next book that I have is Piranesi by Suzanne Clark, and I technically wouldn't consider this a soft DNF. I only made it to, I think, 5 pages. And I know for a fact that it's a really weird book. I am no stranger to weird books. I love me a really good weird book. Again, I'm just not really in the headspace for, I think, big... I don't know what I'm trying to say. I was just very distracted when I first picked it up like a couple of days ago, and I really think that this is going to be a new favorite. So again, I want to give it its time that it deserves so that I could really assess if it is going to be a favorite or not. That's the exact same thing that I said about Martyr. I knew I wasn't in the right headspace to read that one specifically, so I do owe it a reread as well. This section is what I kind of consider my immediate reads that I want. Basically, when I'm ready for a next book, I will be immediate looking to this section. And the next book in this section is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. The next book is Bonjour Tes Stress by Francois Sagan. The next couple of books are all works in translation. I'm a big fan of translated works and I'm very excited to get to all of these, honestly. But the next book that I have is The Employees by Olga Raven. The next book is Tender by Ariana Harwis, translated by Annie McDermott and Carolina Orloff. This is part of an accidental trilogy by this author, so I'm hoping it really doesn't matter the order that I've been picking this up, because I think I only have 2 in this accidental trilogy. The next book I think is actually the real first book in this accidental trilogy, because it is Die My Love, and this is based on the movie that just recently came out, or the movie is based on this book. In a forgotten patch of French countryside, a woman is battling her demons, embracing exclusion yet wanting to belong, craving freedom while feeling trapped, yearning for family life but wanting to burn the whole house down. Giving surprising leeway by her family despite her increasingly erratic behavior, she nevertheless feels even more stifled and repressed. I heard the movie was really good, so I kind of really want to read the book before I get to the movie itself. The next book is kind of I'm kind of nervous to get to it because I've tried reading this author already and I had to hard DNF. That's the first book that I encountered from them 3 times already, because I really wanted to like it, but I just couldn't. I just continued getting, there was a wall and I couldn't get past that wall. This next book is Paradise Rot by Jenny Haval. And another reason why I'm just laughing is because apparently in the book community, this is considered the piss kink novel. I don't know, maybe that's what I need to read this, but I'm still going to try to read it. This next book is My Death by Lisa Turtle, with an introduction by Amy Gentry. The next book is Clarice Lispector's final novel, apparently. She did not live to see it published, and that is A Breath of Life. If you're new here, I have been reading Clarice Lispector's entire catalog. I only have a few left, and that is A Breath of Life and The Besieged City. So I'm excited to finally finish what's out there from her. I think I also technically have she has a short story collection that I also haven't read, but that is currently under my Poison Apple. And I've been using it as a display, so I kind of lied. There are some books that I haven't read on this shelf. This next book is called Malas by Marcela Fuentes. This last book in the stack is technically 2 books, but they got reprinted together. That is The Monk and the Robot duology by Becky Chambers. A Psalm for the Wild Built and a Prayer for the Crown Shy. I have no rhyme and reason in the way that I organized this shelf, to be honest, but this bottom section I have The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. The next 3 books are my first Stephen King books. I have never read any of his novels, and I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm ready to figure out if I like his writing or not. And the first book is Carrie. This next book is The Shining, and the last Stephen King that I have here is Pet Cemetery. And these next 2 books are non-fiction, actually. The first non-fiction book that I have is Braiding Sweetgrass: Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and Teachings of Plants. And then the next book that I have is The Creative Act. This next book is The 5 Wounds by Kristen Valdez Quaid. So let's move to this section right here. Again, there's no really rhyme or reason to my organization, so this next book that I have is Dark Places by Gillian. I read Sharp Objects. I think I read this for my Summerween video that I have a couple of years back, so I'll post that video here for my full thoughts. But as soon as I was done with that one, I actually bought Dark Places, so I actually am hoping to get to this pretty soon. The next book is Siren and Muses by Antonia Angres. The next book is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is a book that I read in high school, a book that I really liked in high school, but I want to return to it in a more adult mindset. I'm really excited to get to this eventually. The next book is actually a very recent buy as well, but it's just one of those books that I haven't gone to it. That's Slaughterhouse 5. The next one is The Awakening and Selected Stories by Kate Chopin. I don't know how she pronounces it, to be honest. The next book is Follow Me to Ground by Sue Ransford. Definitely a cover buy, but I'm excited to get to it. Next book is a work in translation by Osamu Daze, and that is The Setting Sun, and I think this is technically a Japanese classic. The next book that I have is The Sorrows of Young Werther, and that is by Gautier. This last book is Heart of the Dog by Mikhail Bulgakov, who is the author of The Master and Margarita, which is a book, I don't know if you could see it, but it is a book that is on my favorite shelf. Quick side note, I did also just recently find out that The Master and Margarita kinda essentially has a companion cover for this novel. So anyways, the next books for this specific shelf is Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. This next book is also technically a reread, but it's a new translation, so I don't want to consider it a reread because of that, but that is Pedro Páramo by Juan Ruflo, and it actually comes with a foreword by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This next book is one that I've been wanting to read for such a long time, so hopefully I could get to it as soon as I can. That is Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. And then the last book in this section, it is The Silent Patient. Moving to this section of my bookshelf. These three books are classmate recommended, and as you can see, they're big. The first book that I have is 2666 by Roberto Bolaño. The next book was actually an accidental find. I was trying to find this specific book, but when I picked this up, I read the synopsis and I was like, oh my god, wait, I actually really like it. And that is Septology by John Fosse. And then this next book is Selenoid by Mercia, and I can't pronounce his last name, so I will post it up on here. My friend who recommended this spoke very highly of it. I think it's their favorite book by their favorite author, and I just love reading books by people who I care for when they say like, hey, this is my favorite thing. You see, they're so beefy, they don't need bookends. The next book's down here. That is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. The next two books are actually Virginia Woolf, and that is To the Lighthouse and Orlando. These last two books for this specific section are both by Neil Gaiman, and that is Ocean at the End of the Lake and Coraline. Matching editions, I love matching editions. So this next shelf over here, next is Legion by William Peter Blatty. And I read The Exorcist in the Summerween video that I keep referencing, and I loved it. The Exorcist is sitting, I think, yeah, The Exorcist is actually sitting in my favorites shelf, and Legion is technically the official sequel to the book. I'll probably pick this up for the next Summerween. Who knows? Stay tuned. This next book is another one of my classmate or friends inspired, but that is Three Plays by Federico Garcia Lorca, which is Blood Wedding, Yerma, and the House of Bernadette Alba. This next book, or I guess these next books, because I have, it's The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy down at the bottom as well in a box set. So this will be the official representative of the entire trilogy. The next book is Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry. The next book is The Rings of Saturn by W.J. Seablad. These next two books are essentially Hail Marys from when I'm having a horrible reading slump. That is Swift and Saddled and done and dusted. I know there's more to this particular series, but I only got these two just to make sure that I like them before I buy the rest. This next book is Elena Ferrante, The Lying Life of Adults. This next book is another one of those I'm sorry Booksphere people, book talk, book YouTube, that I haven't gone to it, but that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. My old roommate recently read it and she was like, trust me, I think you'd really like it. So we are trusting her. Next, I have Caramelo by Sandra Cisneros. And Sandra Cisneros is a very well-known Chicana author. She wrote The House on Mango Street, and this is one of her full novels. Next is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Wong. This last book is Dogs of Summer by Andrea Abre. I'm gonna have a lot of Toni Morrison in this stack, but this next book is Toni Morrison's Paradise. The next book is Song of Solomon. The next book is another very popular book in the dark academia realm that I'm finally getting to eventually, and that is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. Next is The Hounding by Knob Purvis. Look how pretty the cover is. The next book that I have here is Sula by Toni Morrison. The next book is actually a classic, and that is Emma by Jane Austen. The next book that I have is another well-known classic that I've heard of, and that is White Teeth by Zadie Smith. And then the last book in this stack is Perfume by Patrick Suskind. So now we are entering the inner shelves of my bookshelf. And as you guys can see, this one doesn't really fit, but the next book is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. These next two books, I specifically waited for editions or translations that had great reviews on them, especially with them being readable, I guess you could say. And that is the Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. By this Russian guy. These are brand new translations that I've heard really great things about. Next is Paradise Regained and Samsung Agonistes by John Milton. This shelf are essentially all like my classics, but the next classic is George Eliot's The Lifted Veil and Brother Jacob. Gautier's Faust, Part 1 and Part 2, because for some reason they were separated in the Oxford World's Classics editions and the Oxford editions. I am a very big fan of the Hell House LLC trilogy. The first one is top tier. I love that movie so much. Oh, I technically have seen the fourth one as well. I think there's a fifth one. There's a fifth one. I need to see the fifth one. Anyways, in the third one, they are rehearsing to put on the play of Faust, or a modernized version of Faust. So because of those movies, I got even more interested in wanting to pick these books up. The next is actually a Jane Austen, and that is Northanger Abbey. The next book is Henry James, The Ambassadors. The next one is Portrait of a Lady. And this one is I feel like one of the more well-known Henry James novels. Might as well jump to this one real quick. The other Henry James that I have in is Italian Hours. And this is a nonfiction. This is a bunch of essays of his travels through Italy, essentially. I have multiple John Steinbeck novels in here, and the first one is East of Eden. I really want to get into philosophy, so this next book is one of those attempts, and that is Either Or by Soren Kierkegaard. Next book is going back to George Eliot, and that is The Mill on the Floss. The Mill on the Floss. This one is another philosophical book, and that is Confessions by Saint Augustine. The next Jane Austen I have is Sense and Sensibilities. The next philosophical book I have is Nietzsche, and that is Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This next book is Grapes of Wrath. The next book that I have is Shirley Jackson Dark Tales. Next, I have A Room with a View by E.M. Faust. Next, I have another philosophy book by Kierkegaard, which is Sickness Unto Death. The next book is also by Søren Kierkegaard, which is Fear and Trembling. And then going into a modern classic, this is Saul Bellows' The Dean's December. This next book is The Great Expectations by Charles Dickinson. The next is The Tenant at Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I've read the other two Bronte sisters' works, which both are on my favorite shelf. Both Charlotte and Emily have made it onto my favorite shelf with Wuthering Heights and Jane Austen. So I'm ready to see if Anne Bronte is a good fit with her sisters. This next book is Stoner by John Williams. This next book is Lies and Sorcery by Alessa Morante. We have finally made it to the bottom shelf. So this next book is Come and Get It by Kylie Reed. Oh, and it's actually a signed edition. That's actually pretty cool. Next one is Nick Offerman, Where the Deer and Antelope Play. The Pastoral Observations of One Ignorant American Who Loves to Walk Outside. So this is a nonfiction by D. Ron Swanson. The next book is Sweet Soft Plenty Rhythm by Laura Worrell. Next is The Immaculate Conception by Liling Huang. Next is Peggy by Rebecca Godfrey and Leslie Jameson. Technically, I was supposed to read this in my study abroad, but I forgot my copy at home and didn't get to it. But I was hearing wonderful things about the book while we were discussing it, and I heard it was a fast read, so I'm ready to catch up. This next book is Akawaki Amezi, Dear Sentruin, a Black Spirit memoir. And as the title suggests, this is Akawaki's Amezi's memoir. Next is another dark academia one, and that is Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. I heard great things about this. Can't wait to read it. Next is John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed. Next is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. The next book is O Calvadonia by Elizabeth Barker. Next is The Virgin Suicide by Jeffrey Eugenides. Same. The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. The next book is Lost Souls Meet Under a Full Moon by Mizuki Tsujimura. And the next one is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfeld. Next is Blindness by Saramago, and I also have The Gospel According to Jesus Christ by the same author. Next, I have Norwegian Wood. I technically soft DNF'd and Kafka on the Shore, so I don't know how fast I'm gonna get to this one, but at least I'm trying. Oh, I also have seen, I think the reason why I bought it was because it was marketed as the sequel to Blindness. But all I know is that when I received this edition, I was really mad because I specifically bought the edition that would match Blindness, and they obviously don't match. The next book is Quiet by Susan Cain, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. The next book I have is Franz Kafka, The Metamorphoses and Other Stories. The next book was originally unhauled, but I decided to give it a second chance. I don't know why, to be honest, because I'm kind of considering it unhauling it again, but that is The Ex-Wife by Ursula Parrott. Next is Midnight's Children. The next book I have is Lolita by Nabokov. This next book is Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. Death in Venice and Other Stories by Thomas Mann. The next book is Brutes by Diz Tate. The next book is also a reread that I want to do because I technically read it for a class and I felt like I was kind of rushed. I want to really take my time during this read, but that is Ulysses by James Joyce. The last and final book on my TBR shelf is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I'm not a big fantasy person, honestly. I don't know if you could tell from the lack of it in this book haul, bookshelf tour situation. However, every time I tried unhauling it, something about me didn't want to. And I did read A River Enchanted and I really liked it. So I figured, why not try to give this one a chance? Also, though, to be fair, I haven't read the second book in that duology, and I know that this is a duology as well. So who knows if I'll ever actually finish the duology, but I do at least want to give the first book a second chance, well, not even another try. I haven't read it, but I'm not unhauling it for a reason. That's what I'm trying to say. And those are all the books on my to be read shelf. I hope you guys enjoyed this little tour. If you guys have read any of these books, please consider leaving your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if I need to move some in the more immediately reading section or if I should just completely unhaul other ones. I literally would love all of the opinions that are out there. If you guys want to see me read these books, then please consider subscribing. I like to vlog about my journey in grad school and what I'm reading at the time. So if you're interested in all of that, please consider subscribing. And I hope to see you in the next video. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your time zone. Okay, bye.
You know I'm such a fool for you. You caught me wrapped around your finger. Do you have to let it linger? Do you have to? Do you have to? Do you have to let it linger?